Welcome to Hearingo. Listen, understand, and improve your English every day.
The Last Lantern of Aurelis. Part 1. The Boy Beneath the Lighthouse. The sea had a habit of remembering things. Old sailors said the waves carried the voices of the dead, that every shipwreck left behind a memory floating beneath the surface. Most people laughed at such tales. Elias did not. Standing on the black cliffs of Aurelis, he often listened to the ocean at night. Sometimes, when the wind was quiet and the moon hung low over the water, he thought he could hear whispers rising from the depths. His grandfather called it imagination. Too much time alone, the old man would say. Perhaps he was right. Aurelis was a lonely island. It sat far from the great kingdoms of the continent, surrounded by endless grey water. The island had one village, one harbour, and one lighthouse that towered above everything else. The lighthouse was ancient. No one knew who had built it. Its stone walls were older than any house in the village, older than any record kept in the town hall. The villagers simply accepted that it had always been there. At night, its golden lantern burned brighter than any fire. And every night, Elias climbed the spiral staircase to light it. He was 17 years old and had spent nearly his entire life beneath that lighthouse. His parents had died when he was very young. A storm had swallowed their fishing boat before he could remember their faces. Only his grandfather remained. The old keeper of the lighthouse. For years they lived together in a small stone cottage at the base of the tower. Life was simple. Wake before dawn. Repair nets. Help fishermen unload catches. Climb the lighthouse. Light the lantern. Sleep. Repeat. Yet Elias often dreamed of distant lands. He imagined towering cities with silver bridges. Forests glowing beneath strange stars. Deserts filled with ruins older than history. He wanted to see everything. Instead, he spent his days watching gulls circle above the harbor. Sometimes life felt like a cage made from routine. Then came the storm. The storm that changed everything. It arrived without warning. One afternoon the sky darkened. Clouds rolled across the horizon like an army marching toward war. The sea became restless. Waves slammed against the cliffs. Boats hurried into the harbor. Doors were barred. Windows shuttered. By sunset, rain was falling in sheets. The lighthouse trembled beneath the wind. Elias climbed the tower carrying a lantern. Behind him, his grandfather struggled up the stairs. "You should rest," Elias said. The old man shook his head. "Not tonight." Something in his voice sounded strange. Uneasy. When they reached the top chamber, the storm had become monstrous. Lightning illuminated the sea. Thunder shook the glass windows. The great golden lantern burned above them. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then the old keeper placed a wrinkled hand on Elias's shoulder. "There is something I should have told you years ago." Elias frowned. "What is it?" The old man's eyes remained fixed on the storm. "This lighthouse is not what people think it is." The answer only created more questions. "What do you mean?" His grandfather took a deep breath. "This tower was built to guard something." "Guard what?" Silence. The wind screamed outside. Another flash of lightning lit the room. Then the old man whispered. "A door." Elias stared at him. "A door?" Not a normal door. The old keeper's expression had become deadly serious. "It leads somewhere beyond our world." Elias almost laughed. It sounded impossible. Yet something stopped him. His grandfather wasn't joking. Not tonight. You expect me to believe that? I expect you to listen. The old man reached inside his coat and removed a small iron key. The metal looked ancient. Strange symbols covered its surface. Elias had never seen it before. His grandfather held it carefully, as though it were the most valuable object in existence. For hundreds of years, he said, our family has protected this key. Our family? Yes. The old keeper looked directly into Elias's eyes. Because one day the door would open again. Lightning exploded across the sky. The entire lighthouse shook. Then something impossible happened. The golden lantern above them flickered. For the first time in Elias's life, the light dimmed. Both of them looked up. The flame weakened, dimmed again, and went out. Darkness swallowed the room. For a heartbeat, neither moved. The great lantern had never failed. Never. Not once. A deep sound echoed through the tower, like distant machinery awakening after centuries of silence. The floor trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. Elias grabbed the railing. What was that? His grandfather had gone pale. No. The old man's voice cracked. No, no, no. The sound came again. Louder. The entire lighthouse shuddered. Then a brilliant blue light erupted from below. Far beneath the tower. Somewhere underground. Elias stared. His grandfather closed his eyes. It's beginning. What is? The old man looked older than ever. The door is opening. Before Elias could respond, a violent shockwave exploded through the lighthouse. Glass shattered. Wind rushed inside. The tower groaned. For one terrible moment, Elias thought it might collapse. Then everything became still. Only the storm remained. Only the rain. Only the darkness. Slowly, his grandfather handed him the key. Elias accepted it automatically. The metal felt strangely warm. Listen carefully, the old keeper said. His voice was weak now. Very weak. If anything happens to me, you must protect that key. What are you talking about? You must leave Aurelis. No. You must. The old man gripped his shoulder. With surprising strength. They will come. Who? The answer arrived before the question finished. A bell rang from the harbor. Once. Twice. 3 times. The alarm bell. Villagers only rang it when danger approached from the sea. Elias rushed to the window. Far beyond the storm, dark shapes emerged from the rain. Ships. Many ships. Black sails. Black hulls. Moving silently toward the island. Fear tightened his chest. Something felt wrong. Terribly wrong. The ships carried no lights. No banners. No visible crew. They looked less like vessels and more like shadows gliding across the water. His grandfather stared at them. They found us. Elias turned. Who are they? The old keeper whispered a name. A name Elias had never heard before. The Hollow Fleet. Thunder shook the sky. The old man stepped backward. Suddenly unsteady. His hand pressed against the wall. Elias rushed forward. Grandfather. The old keeper collapsed. Elias caught him before he hit the floor. The old man's breathing had become shallow. Pain filled his face. Stay with me. His grandfather smiled sadly. I'm afraid my journey ends here. No. Elias. The storm seemed distant now. The old keeper's voice had become barely audible. You were always meant for more than this island. Tears formed in Elias's eyes. Don't talk like that. The old man placed a trembling hand against his cheek. The sea remembers. What? The sea remembers everything. His eyes drifted toward the key. Find the lantern. Elias frowned. What lantern? But the old keeper was no longer listening. His gaze had become distant, as though he could see something far away. Something beyond the room. Beyond the storm. Beyond the world itself. Elias. Yes. Don't let them open the gate. The old man's hand slipped. His eyes closed. And he became still. For a long time, Elias remained frozen. Unable to move. Unable to think. The storm continued outside. The bell rang in the village below. Ships approached through the darkness. But none of it felt real. His grandfather was gone. The only family he had ever known. Gone. Then footsteps echoed from below. Many footsteps. Heavy footsteps. Climbing the lighthouse stairs. Elias looked toward the doorway. A chill ran through him. Whoever was coming had already entered the tower. The key felt heavy in his hand. Another memory surfaced. His grandfather's final warning. They will come. The footsteps grew closer. Slow. Steady. Deliberate. Elias wiped his eyes and stood. The tower suddenly felt very small. The doorway remained dark. A figure appeared. Tall. Wrapped in black clothing. Its face hidden behind a silver mask. Then another figure emerged. And another. And another. 4 strangers climbed into the lantern room. None spoke. None moved. For several seconds, they simply stared. Then the tallest raised a gloved hand. And pointed directly at the key. Elias understood immediately. They hadn't come for the lighthouse. They had come for him. And somewhere beneath the tower, deep underground, the mysterious blue light continued to shine. The door was opening. And the adventure had begun. Part 2, The Door Beneath the Sea, Final Part. The masked figures stepped into the lantern room without a sound. Rain lashed against the shattered windows. The blue glow from beneath the lighthouse pulsed through the stone floor like the heartbeat of some ancient giant. Elias tightened his grip on the iron key. The tallest figure extended a hand. Give us the key of tides. The voice sounded strange, as if several people were speaking at once. Elias backed away. No. The figure tilted its head. You do not understand what you carry. I understand enough. The strangers advanced. Elias glanced toward the spiral staircase. There was no chance of fighting them. His grandfather had always taught him one important lesson about survival. When you cannot win, move. So he ran. He sprinted toward the staircase and threw himself down the spiral steps. Shouts echoed behind him. The masked figures followed. He raced downward, taking 3 steps at a time. The lighthouse trembled around him. Blue light poured from cracks in the stone. As he reached the lower levels, he noticed something impossible. A section of wall had opened. An entrance existed where none had ever existed before. The hidden doorway glowed with azure light. Without hesitation, Elias darted inside. The passage beyond descended deep underground. The air grew colder. The sounds of the storm faded. Soon only his footsteps remained. The tunnel seemed ancient. Symbols covered the walls. Strange stars. Unknown constellations. Shapes resembling ships sailing through the sky instead of the sea. The farther he traveled, the brighter the blue light became. At last the tunnel opened into a colossal chamber. Elias froze. The room was enormous. Far larger than the lighthouse above could possibly contain. The ceiling vanished into darkness. Ancient pillars surrounded a circular platform. And in the center stood a door. A gigantic silver door. At least 40 feet high. Covered in glowing symbols. Blue energy flowed across its surface like rivers of light. The sight stole his breath. His grandfather had been telling the truth. The lighthouse had been guarding something. The door hummed softly. Then a voice echoed through the chamber. At last. Elias spun around. A woman stood among the pillars. She appeared young, perhaps 25. Yet something about her eyes suggested tremendous age. Her silver cloak shimmered in the blue light. "Who are you?" Elias asked. The woman smiled. "My name is Lyra. How did you get here?" "I've been waiting." That answer only confused him more. "For me?" "Yes." Behind them, footsteps echoed from the tunnel. The hollow fleet had arrived. Lyra's expression darkened. "We have little time." She pointed toward the door. "Do you know what it is?" Elias shook his head. "It's a gate between worlds." The chamber suddenly felt much colder. Worlds. There was a time when many worlds were connected. Her gaze rested on the glowing symbols. Travel between them was common. What happened? A war. The word lingered in the air. A terrible war. The blue light flickered. One side sought knowledge. Her expression hardened. The other sought power. The hollow fleet. She nodded. They served a king who wanted to rule every world he could reach. And this door? It was sealed. A distant boom echoed through the chamber. The masked figures were getting closer. Lyra continued. "Your family became its guardians." Elias looked down at the key. "My family?" "For centuries." The truth crashed over him. His grandfather. The lighthouse. The key. Everything suddenly fit together. What happens if they open it? Lyra remained silent for a moment. Then she answered. "They will release the Void King." The name alone sounded wrong. As though the world disliked hearing it. "The war will begin again." The footsteps grew louder. They were almost there. "What do we do?" Elias asked. Lyra pointed toward the center platform. "Only the key bearer can control the gate." The silver door vibrated. A crack of darkness appeared between its halves. Something moved beyond it. Something enormous. Something alive. A deep voice emerged from the opening. "Elias." The sound shook the chamber. Every instinct told him to flee. Yet the voice continued. "I have waited." The darkness inside the gate seemed endless. Ancient. Hungry. The Void King. The masked figures finally entered the chamber. More than a dozen now. Their leader stepped forward. "The gate belongs to us." "No," Lyra said. The leader laughed. "It always belonged to him." The masked figures removed their silver masks. Elias recoiled. There were no faces beneath. Only darkness. Living darkness. like pieces of the void itself. The hollow fleet wasn't an army. It was a plague. A shadow wearing human shapes. The creatures rushed forward. The battle began. Lyra drew a blade of pure silver light. It sliced through the nearest shadow. The creature dissolved instantly. More followed. Dozens. The chamber erupted into chaos. Elias stumbled backward. The key grew warm. Then hot. Then blazing. Blue light exploded from it. A vision filled his mind. He saw generations of lighthouse keepers. Men. Women. Children. All carrying the same key. All protecting the same door. And behind them stood his grandfather. Smiling. The old man spoke. Not with words. With memory. The sea remembers. Suddenly Elias understood. The key was not merely metal. It carried the memories of every guardian who had ever held it. Their knowledge. Their strength. Their courage. The light intensified. The shadows hesitated. Even the Void King's voice became silent. Elias stepped onto the central platform. The silver door trembled. Darkness pushed against it from the other side. Trying to escape. The key floated from his hand. Blue fire surrounded it. Symbols ignited across the chamber walls. The Guardian's memories flowed through him. Thousands of years. Thousands of lives. One purpose. Protect the gate. The Hollow Fleet realized what was happening. Their leader screamed. Stop him. They charged. Lyra intercepted them. Silver light flashed. Shadows dissolved. The chamber shook violently. The door began closing. The Void King roared. The sound resembled a collapsing universe. Dark tendrils burst through the gap. They reached toward Elias. Toward the key. Toward freedom. Fear flooded him. Then another memory surfaced. His grandfather's final smile. You were always meant for more than this island. Elias raised his hand. The key blazed like a star. The tendrils shattered. The silver doors slammed together. The chamber exploded with light. A shockwave tore through the darkness. The Hollow Fleet disintegrated instantly. Their leader vanished with a scream. The roar of the Void King faded. The symbols dimmed. Silence returned. The gate was sealed. For a long time nobody moved. Then Lyra lowered her sword. It's over. Elias stared at the door. Really? Yes. The silver surface no longer glowed. It looked ancient once again. Sleeping. Waiting. The war was finished. At least for now. Weeks passed. The storm eventually ended. The sea grew calm. The villagers rebuilt damaged homes. They never learned the full truth. Only that strange ships had appeared and vanished. Only that the old lighthouse keeper had died a hero. Elias buried his grandfather on the cliffs overlooking the ocean. The ceremony was simple. Just as the old man would have wanted. Afterward he sat beside the grave until sunset. The wind carried the scent of salt and rain. For a while he simply watched the waves. Then Lyra approached. You'll miss the ship. Elias smiled. I know. A real ship waited in the harbor. Not one of shadows. One made of wood and canvas. A vessel bound for the distant continent. The world he had dreamed about his entire life. Lyra sat beside him. What will you do? Elias looked toward the horizon. I don't know. Good answer. He laughed. You. She stood. There are other gates. His smile faded. Other gates. Many. Many worlds. She nodded. More than you can imagine. The thought filled him with wonder. And excitement. Adventure hadn't ended. It had only begun. The sun slowly descended toward the sea. Golden light covered the water. For a moment Elias thought he heard his grandfather's voice in the wind. Not words. Just a feeling. Pride. Peace. The sea remembers. He finally understood. The sea remembered every journey. Every loss. Every dream. Every story. And now his own story would become part of it. Elias stood. Picked up his bag. And walked toward the harbor. Toward the unknown. Toward new horizons. Behind him, the ancient lighthouse shone once more. Its golden lantern burning brightly against the evening sky. Guarding the island. Guarding the sleeping gate. Waiting for whatever future might come. And far beyond the horizon, where sea met sky, countless adventures waited to be discovered.